Berans, and I'm an undergraduate student studying anthropology and archaeology at SUNY Potsdam. This semester I'll be carrying out an ethnographic research project, and this vlog will really serve as documentation of my experience, feelings, and findings throughout the process of this project. So my research will really be an examination of the cultural phenomenon that is the internet meme. I'm particularly interested in looking at how internet memes are used in the context of political discourse, particularly in online spaces. Memes are everywhere these days, and they've become such an integral part of people's lives, especially in our younger generations. The internet meme serves as a comedic purpose to many, and has had significant impacts on different aspects of our lives, such as communication. When adopting a social constructionist framework, it becomes clear that memes have really extended beyond this purpose of entertainment, and I believe that this is due to the ways in which people use them. In my research, I hope to gain insight into how people use memes as a creative form of resistance against the spread of harmful ideologies in political discourse. So to do this, I hope to answer a couple of different questions. One being, what type of meme formats and pictures or GIFs are used the most in these themes of discourse? How are these memes used to spread ideas about certain political movements or ideas, and what messages are they ultimately conveying? How are these memes being received or perceived? And how are these memes actually being used to combat these harmful political ideologies? Are they successful in getting people to side with the message of the meme? If so, how are they doing that? I believe that this research will shed light on the internet meme in a way that has not really been done before. Memes are cultural artifacts, and their importance to people's lives in today's age really warrants a study of how people utilize them in the social and cultural dimensions of their lives. Anthropologists have studied the complex and creative ways that people have actively engaged in resistance against problematic discourse and actions for a very long time. But as our world shifts into an ever-growing online one, we too need to shift our attention to how offline practices have morphed into online ones. I argue that memes are one such practice. People's use of them is complex and should not be oversimplified, and to gain a deeper understanding of their role in people's lives, we must engage in this type of research. Anthropological literature that examines the use of memes in social and cultural context has been quite limited. From what I've seen in my lit review so far, most of the work that's looking at memes is being done by political scientists and communication specialists and even business administrators. The work of these folks tends to focus on the creation, lifespan, viralness, and spreadability of memes. Other work looks at political activism and resilience, which is a core part of my research, but it does so in the context of new media and not necessarily specifically looking at memes. My work will mesh quite nicely with the work that's already been done. Eileen Zenner and Dirk Geertz published an article in 2018 titled "One Does Not Simply Process Memes, Image Macros as Multimodal Constructions." Their work on image macros, which is a term that they use to describe a type of meme that uses a popular image overlaid with text. It presents a linguistic analysis that highlights the conventionality and creativity of image macros. They aim to push back against the trivialization of memes by illustrating the complexity of them, which is something that I hope to be able to do in my research as well. One literary work that I've found that has proved to become very central in my research has been a book called No Billion in the Air Left Behind by Angelique Hogrod. The book is an ethnography that reports on how political humor, satire, and irony are used in the context of political discourse in American democracy. Hogrod looks at the billionaires, which are a group of satirical activists who combat the gross inequalities of wealth that exist in America, and they do so through mockery and satire. She discusses jokes and how they function within a society. She says that for a joke to be successful, it has to have a shared context, one that others and insiders can understand and relate to. And in this way, jokes have often been used to call out inequalities, and in this book, in particular, economic inequalities. Hogrod also discusses political leaders and their fear of jokes. She says that for political leaders, jokes upset the balance of power. The control is in the hands of those who they seek to control, and for them that's terrifying. She cites examples of how other countries have strict censorship regimes because of this. they actively suppress the expression of humor and jokes about political figures. My work will be able to nicely fit into this idea that political leaders fear jokes and that jokes have this insider knowledge to them, that they need shared context. Memes are exactly the same way, they function on the same basis. By looking at patterns in the visual construction of the memes, analyzing the text and the images used in them, and coding the comments that I pull from the examined posts, I hope to be able to tease out patterns that will begin to answer my research questions. My research will take place on Instagram, which is a place that's typically used for sharing content, and Reddit, which is a place that's more focused on the actual creation of content, particularly political memes. Both platforms have categorical systems that make finding memes related to certain topics more user-friendly. Since the topics covered by memes are very vast and varied, I will be limiting my research to 3 topics: Trump rhetoric, anti-vaccination, and the college admissions scandal. These topics are the most relevant today, and in a world where memes are constantly changing at a rapid pace to reflect the events of the offline world, these are the most abundant across many sites and social media spaces at the current time, which will make them much easier for study. I'll be visiting each of these sites and locating particular hashtags that procure memes related to 3 topics that I'm looking at. For example, on Instagram, I'm looking at the hashtag anti-vax memes. Each hashtag, when clicked on, brings up a page that shows you all of the images and posts that have been tagged with that particular hashtag. I will scroll through the page, locating relevant memes, and will save them to my research account so that they can be easily found later for content and comment analysis. Reddit functions a lot differently from Instagram, however. I will locate subreddits dedicated to memes of the 3 different topics to study, and subreddits are just communities of people that share content related to a particular topic. After I've collected about 10 memes from each category, I'll then begin looking at their comments. I'll be looking particularly at how many of those comments are just people tagging other people in them, how many likes that the comment has, what the content of the comments is, and start to look at the intentions of the comment. Is it supportive, is it opposing, or is it just people trolling? All of this will then be recorded in Word documents, which I have set up for each of the topics, and then I'll be able to revisit them and start to code the data looking for patterns and trends. So I just came across a particularly interesting comment on an anti-vax meme that I was looking at on Reddit. The comment came from someone who appears to be the child of an anti-vaccination parent, and they stated that they heavily relate to the meme in the content and the message that it's sharing. They state that they suffer from health issues due to the lack of vaccinations that they received as a child, and they go on to state that it was actually Reddit, and particularly the subreddit that I was looking at, that actually opened their eyes to what the anti-vax movement was spreading, the mistruth behind some of the things that they were saying. So this was a case of somebody explicitly stating that it was memes that actually helped them to better understand both the anti-vax movement and the resistance to it. Another thing that I've been thinking about as I've been doing this research is, what about the people who aren't commenting on these memes, but instead, like me, are just scrolling and observing and taking in what they see? What are they taking away from the dialogue that they see? Particularly on these controversial memes where there's arguments and discussion that's sometimes heated, sometimes productive. Are people being educated about certain movements that they didn't know about before? Are they creating own ideas in their head? Are they thinking twice about what they already know? That's the kind of stuff that I've been thinking about as I've been myself just scrolling through some of the comments on these memes. So I've noticed in my search for anti-Trump memes that many of the posts that are tagged with the meme hashtag on Instagram are actually political cartoons or IRL activist artwork that are made by professional artists. These artists are not the ones that are posting them, but they are being shared on the platform nonetheless. And it's interesting when you think of political cartoons and activist artwork and the similarities that they share to memes of a political nature. They both are trying to convey a message about a particular political topic. And I would like to explore the similarities that these 2 types of media share. Could politically charged memes in some ways be an online extension of the offline practice of creating political cartoons? As my research comes to a close, I've been able to reflect more on the process of the research, the challenges that I faced, and my position as a researcher and how it ultimately influenced the work. Going into the project, I knew there were going to be limitations. I had to frame my research to account for the fact that I would not be able to work with actual human subjects or observe individual profiles on social media. While this cut out on some of the questions that I really wanted to answer, I still think that there is a lot of valuable data and information to be had from simply doing online observations of public posts, memes, and comments. Time was also a very limiting factor in the research, and as a result, I had to ultimately, unfortunately, cut down on what I had planned to look at. While I actively tried to lessen the influence that my own political affiliation and stances on the topics of anti-vaccination and Trump had on my interpretations of the data, I acknowledged that to some degree it will impact it. However, I also believed that my stances on these topics gave me insights that perhaps I would not have had otherwise, gave me better access to certain online groups, and allowed me to know which hashtags were utilized by these groups. As a researcher, I would say that my biggest influencing mark of identity has been my age and involvement with the subject matter. As a young 21-year-old college student, memes and social media have been a massive part of the last 7 or so years of my life. Being familiar with the meme world in the context of certain phrases and images and GIFs has allowed me to better understand that insider knowledge. It gave me access to information that, had I not grown up learning this stuff, I definitely would not have had. Similarly, being affluent in social media and my familiarity with both Instagram and Reddit certainly helped me in the research process. Knowing how to navigate the interfaces of the sites helped tremendously, and knowledge of the structure of the two sites also allowed me to see interesting patterns that I otherwise would have been blind to. Overall, the experience of doing this research has been fantastic. I've never done a research project like this, and coming out of it, I'm taking away such valuable knowledge and skills and insights and knowledge about memes that I simply didn't have before. And going forward, it'll certainly help influence the way that I conduct research as an anthropologist.